What's Wendy doing? I called, I texted her.
I had a pretty good day yesterday, and I went to sleep. I woke up about 2 something in the morning, and I was watching this movie called Cries of Syria. When I say I cried like a baby under my blanket, I literally cried like a baby under my blanket. Um, as a vegetarian slash vegan, I've watched Cowspiracy, and I've watched Forks Over Knives and Earthlings, and your heart goes out. And when I see something like that, there was a man holding a human foot. I think to myself, you know, these are God's people. These are people that pray 5 times a day, probably very devout. They submit to the will of God, and men and military forces come and kill men, women, and children, defenseless men, women, and children. Um, we don't see that every day in America. Um, Shit changed last night watching that. We live in our homes and our athletic clubs and our fancy phones and our complacent lives. And our worries are what fast food place, what restaurant, what entertainment, what drug or pleasure of choice it's going to be today. And little children are just fighting for the right to breathe. Years ago, I watched Cat Williams do a comedy special where he said, go ahead and tell me what the Iraqi uniform looked like. And he said, I'll wait. And he said, you don't know. He said, because we're not killing no soldiers. We killing them. And he was probably right. And they showed the warplanes bombing the cities in Syria from Aleppo to Daria, Damascus. These was kids, yo. Little kids, babies. Watching them take their last breath. So I watched that movie and I got up. I had to go for a walk. I went for a long walk. And I'm talking to God. and I'm thinking of this ISIS and Assad, al-Assad, and I'm an American, so these names, they're just foreign to me. I might not know the meanings of them, but I do know that anyone that submits to the will of God as a Muslim, even as a Christian or a Jew or wherever you're at, if you believe that there's a God and there's a last day, then you believe in people's human rights. I've read some of the Quran, maybe 10 books in. And I know somewhere in there it says something about Allah doesn't like it when you walk proudly or boastfully on the earth. And I've been a peaceful man my entire life. I consider myself a bringer of peace. I try to unite people. I'm a mediator. I'm more diplomatic. I'm not a warrior. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a fighter, nor do I pretend to be. But I do know killing women and children is wrong. I ask myself, what effort can I play to, can I be in to help, you know? And when I read the Quran, some of parts of it, and it was speaking of Muhammad and how some people didn't want to fight in the cause of Allah, or I would say Yahweh, or God. Is there such a thing as religious extremism? When just you genocide an entire country, and there people are running for their lives, and they had the Freedom Army, and then there was the opposition, and the people on the video were like, no one's helping us. I think there's a bigger move at play here. What it is, I don't exactly know, but I know killing women and children is wrong. Men, we're men. Men are gonna do what we do. You're either gonna be a warrior or a doctor to help the sick and the wounded, a humanitarian. Those are your two choices. Either you're gonna pick up a gun, or you're gonna pick up a mat or a blanket and try to carry the sick away. We know that as men, but women and children, that's just another level of, that's just wrong, period. But it made me question peace. Is peace always the way? Because I'm watching, people say, we're singing, we're being peaceful, we're protesting, we're asking for justice, we're demonstrating. The saddest part I saw was, it wasn't sad, but I was actually, they asked him, say, will you, if this was the end, could you be cool with the regime? He was like, yeah, but I don't know if I could be. And like I said, I'm a peaceful man. But there has to come a part where peace stops. Solomon in the Bible says there's a time for war, there's a time for peace, time to cry, time to laugh, time for everything. When does that time, you're being peaceful and somebody's like, I'm gonna kill you, and you're like, no, please don't kill me, don't kill my family. We're both men. You have families, I have families, we're okay. It's like, I'm gonna kill you. It's like, please don't kill me. And next thing you know, he kills your son. And you're just still trying to be peaceful. You're like, and you're praying and you're singing songs and you're doing the right thing, and he kills your wife, and you're like, please don't kill me. And next thing you know, he kills your whole neighborhood. When do you choose for peace to stop and war to begin? Because it seems like there's an energy in this world that's just it's just like a lion that just growls to see who jumps first. And I don't know if I'm so peaceful anymore. I think when the Quran says that they're to fight in the cause of Allah or God or Yahweh or whatever you call God, and you look at the Bhagavad Gita and Arjuna and the deity, I think, was trying to explain about the holy war, the fight. And I'm like, maybe this is making sense to me now, where you can't always be peaceful. In the Bible, Jesus says, When something happens to a child, it's better for a millstone to be tied around his neck and be thrown into an ocean than for him to catch up with him for messing with a kid. So there is a righteous fight, defending women and children and your homeland, where you have your roots and your garden grows and your animals are raised, and where you build your home, and you have people fly in with higher technology and warplanes and just blow all that up. For what reason? I know there's been fighting in mankind since day one, since Cain and Abel. The stories of the Ramayana or the Gita or the Bible or the Quran, or look at the Dalai Lama. There's a peaceful man, and the Chinese came and ran him out of his country, and he's a man of peace. He's like the Pope of his people. There's just an energy and a factor in this world that doesn't care how peaceful you are. It's going to either you fight back or it's going to kill you. So I guess you have to be the one with the bigger stick. And if you're merciful after you kick their ass, show mercy to whoever's left. But when people war against the innocent, I know every major religion says something about there will be one that'll return and wrongs will be made righted in the great day of the Lord. I wait for that day. I wait for that day. Be honest with you, I really don't care what people's religion is. I know that every man, woman, and child, you have a right to live in peace. And for your values to be respected. It's because one man is a Christian and another man is a Buddhist or a Taoist or a Hindu or whatever you are. The fear comes in when people are afraid for their children's soul in the afterlife, and they don't want other people's religious views pressed upon their kids, and people's own self-righteousness overcomes God's righteousness or what's just generally right. If someone has a right to breathe, a right to drink, a right to eat, a right to poop, and believe what he wants. That's what makes America what it is. Why people want to escape here, because people's religious values are supposed to be respected. Now we're coming to a time where traditional Christian, Judeo-Christian values are no longer respected. If someone has the right to be a Satanist or a Wiccan or Luciferian, then someone has the right to be a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu or a Buddhist or a Taoist or whatever your religion is. You should have a right to practice that, and people shouldn't be shut up about it. But then you have a majority rules in a democracy, and then other people are shut out, so we have division. And is that the case? Does religion itself bring about a division? And I think it's bigger than that, it's deeper than that. It's just a decision. There are those that believe and there are those that don't. Let God judge. Let God be the one to decide. Let people be. Because at the end of the day, individuals get along. And you can take a black man down south and the hardcore redneck and leave them alone, and eventually they're going to get along. But as groups, it's sad. It's like the Irish, the Protestants and the Catholics, and the Buddhists and the Chinese and the Muslims and the Christians, or the Hindus and the Christians, or it's something. It's a division. I read in the Bible that knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. If we could but grasp that, with all that getting, get understanding. I think the stories in the Bible are misunderstood. I think that the tree of knowledge was the tree of division, and that is how the one that was supposedly to bring the light of the Luciferians actually divided. The unification was in the submission and the humbling to the one who was the creator. And with that, there was unity, there was peace, there was, he was naked and unashamed, the man and his wife. But when the light bringer came and opened the eyes of man, that's when division happened and death occurred. Because death grows like life grows. Cancer grows, death grows, hell grows. So you either choose life or you choose death, and I don't think that these are religions. I think that it's a humbling, it's a submission to believe that there is one that created all this, and to respect your fellow man or not. You know, either you're living in faith or fear, you love or lust. You know, love will be still and let someone else go first. Lust says me. You're gonna wait, Nikki. That's pretty much sums it all up. And if you always trying to do you, and you don't consider others, and you don't look at things as a collective, there's always going to be a division. And with that division, there's always going to be someone on the outside controlling the strings of that. That's just a fact of life. Divide and conquer. When you see these wars, you see some serious atrocities that are the result of those divisions. I hope and I pray for peace, for a remedy, for an understanding, for a unification. But I can see the ones that drop the bombs don't want a unification. They just want people to die. They just want the world population to go down. And, you know, these people want to rule like the kings of old, and everyone's in total submission to this one in command. Yeah, right. Yeah, there comes a time to fight. Gandhi said there was nothing that he was willing to kill for. I don't know. Maybe he was on a level that I'm not at. Was religion invented to divide? Is the light bringer the false god of this earth? And somewhere there is a peaceful God, a loving God, that through love allows all these things to happen, waiting for that one day. That's a good dream. It's a good hope. Does God really want war? These are questions we must ask ourselves as believers. Does true God really want war? Does he really want division of men? Or is there a false God pretending to be God, reveling in this division and seeing mankind suffer? And we just believe that that's okay. I know my life changed last night. pray for peace or send positive feelings towards people that are suffering. And if we really followed the golden rule and we looked at the next man, woman, and child as someone that eat, drink, and sleep and want happy, joyful times for their family, then why would we want to go over and hurt their family? I wouldn't want them to do it to me, so I don't do it to them. But you have sinister forces in the background manipulating things. I think our war is with them, with the people behind the scenes, more than the people that are being manipulated. I think the greatest thing that we can bring to any war is continued love and compassion, even for our enemies. I think that's how it's done, is to love your enemy, to give him mercy when opportunity presents itself. He might call me a bleeding heart liberal, and that same person might pull a gun and still kill me. But I think that's what makes love so special, is that that other person doesn't get it until they saw you were willing to die to love them. That's when they get it. That's when the change comes. It comes. Energy pervades this planet, and the heavens above it, and the earth below it. It's energy in, energy out. And wherever we focus that energy, that's where things grow. And when there's a war, you know there's been a focus of division, a focus of turmoil, a focus of poverty, a focus of friction that ignites, it sparks a fire, and things pop off. The enemy knows what it's doing. I've heard of besieging in history class, but I literally watched it on a movie where the tanks circle the city and they don't let anything come in, they don't let anything go out. Starve you out. You gotta come out and get shot. Well, God, we need you. We need to see some of them old miracles today. We need some of those miracles today. I'll leave you guys with the greatest number, the greatest word, the greatest thought, the greatest feeling, the greatest expression. 1.
What's Wendy doing? I called, I texted her.